Okay, on to the next topic. I heard a podcast episode that dropped today. It's from a podcast called Uncapped with Jack Altman. Yes, of the famous Altman family. This is Sam's brother. But he interviewed legendary venture capitalist Vinod Khosla, founder of Khosla Ventures. He's been doing this for decades, and he really went very deep in a wide ranging interview talking about, of course, what else but AI and what it means for the world, what it means for venture capital and investing. And I think he just had some really spicy takes and spicy quotes and bold predictions that I thought we could go through some of those, Chris. So the first one that Vinod said is almost certainly within the next 5 years, any economically valuable job humans can do, AI will be able to do 80% of it, with a few exceptions like heart surgery or brain surgery. So that's definitely at the bullish end of the AI world. But again, Vinod Khosla puts his money where his mouth is. So he, as a very successful investor, is investing on this basis. He sees that the trajectory of AI is very fast moving, and there's not going to be much left for people to do.
I've heard Vinod speak a handful of times, and he is just one of the most thoughtful, optimistic, bullish, pragmatic people that I've seen in the VC landscape. Sometimes you listen to VCs and they feel like I don't know, they're just kind of libertarians or conservatives, that just want more money. All of their opinions are based on like, how can I get more of mine? Or their insights are sort of value free. It's like, yeah, no shit, dude. Like, obviously that's true. But Vinod is this kind of almost spiritual, interesting guy that has this deep meditation on where the world is going. And he bets really early and he bets a lot. And he's very founder friendly and he bets on the people that he believes in. So I like him a lot. And it's no surprise to me that he feels like, AI is going to be taking over 80% of jobs over the next 5 years. I'm not convinced over the next 10 or 20 years, accounting for maybe some of the diminishing returns I've been talking about with generative AI, that, embodied AI, robot arms or whatever aren't going to go do heart surgery and brain surgery too. So I think we're all enthusiastic about this. Is it 5 years? Is it 7 years? Is it 10 years? We'll wait and see. Is it transformers, trained on yet more and more data, or is there some new architecture in there? We'll wait and see. But yeah, I think it's a safe bet to make.
So he says, my view, the next 5 years to 2030 will look like productivity improvements. But then if I look to 15 years hence, 2040 and beyond, we're going to be in an era of abundance that's so large it's very hard for people to imagine. The simplest way to say it is the need to work will go away. The need to work will go away. What do you think, Chris? Do you agree with that? That's a big prediction.
I'm torn. Okay, on one hand, sometimes what's happened historically since the beginning of time, is that the more things change, the more they stay the same. People adapt, they create new work for themselves, they go up the abstraction layers, and everything will be okay in the fullness of time. There will be some disruptions in the economy. We've experienced them before. Those disruptions look like unemployment, they look like protests, they look like economic, Occupy Wall Street. But they're real disruptions powered by technology and immigration and whatever. But the world finds a kind of continuous equilibrium that doesn't look too different than before, at least not until you look back, 20, 30, 50 years. On the other hand, I think AI has the chance of becoming a discontinuous change, a step function change that occurs so quickly and so completely that the future will not look like the past. And there's one of two ways that could go: really badly or really, really well. Or as most things go, somewhere down the middle. The really, really badly version, it's easy to imagine. We've seen all the movies, Terminator 2 and beyond, The Matrix and so on. We know what that looks like. I think we know what the really, really well looks like as well. It's called Star Trek. Okay. That is a universe populated by technology-powered abundance. And as Captain Picard says in Star Trek First Contact to Lily on the Starship Enterprise, the economics of the future are somewhat different. We work to better ourselves and humanity. And so, yes, while work may be unnecessary, especially for the creation of economic value, we get to go be poets, explorers, dreamers, and go traverse the universe where, health becomes optimized and pain and suffering become minimized and on and on and on. We would all like in Silicon Valley and around the world to hope and dream that that's what's going to happen. It's not a guarantee. It's not inevitable. And I think there are people who are born out of the Silicon Valley ecosystem and mindset who are actually verging on evil villains. Peter Thiel being one of them and Elon Musk being another. And I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, actually, that we end up in utopia, and we all have to be very, very vigilant. Just a side note, I just watched another Peter Thiel video recently. I think the algorithm is now recommending me. If you saw the last episode, you'll know why we talked about him last episode. I saw a fascinating interview, I think it came out this week, where he was being interviewed by a conservative thinker, actually, and he was talking about the Antichrist and how he's trying to invest in companies and technologies that avoid or defeat the Antichrist. I didn't know he was such a religious nutbag. But this interviewer asked him, hey, are you not worried that these things like Palantir and so on aren't going to be the tools that the Antichrist uses to control the world? He was like, he was completely stumped. I mean, how lacking in city self-awareness or kind of self-doubt do you have to be to not even consider that? What a complete moron.
Okay. So going back to Vinod, I think the point is, like, some other things he said on this podcast is it's really just about the pace and change. He says, I've been doing venture capital for 40 years. I've never seen a cycle like this. Almost every job is being reinvented. This is even way faster and larger than .com. So he's going back again. He's an old dude, right? He's like in his 70s. He's been doing this for a long time, and he's saying that he's never seen a pace of change like this. So yeah, again, exact timing and so on. At least the bet that he's making and the rest of Silicon Valley is making is that this is the largest wave yet. And so, obviously that's going to be very disruptive. And one of his other predictions that he's made here is that the 2030s will see a faster rate of demise of Fortune 500 companies than we've ever seen before. And, that one actually, Chris, to me seems like an easy mode prediction. Like, that feels like it's pretty likely to be true.
Yeah, and this is something I've been thinking about a lot. As we keep saying, we've said it over and over again, that every time there's a new platform shift, the deck gets reshuffled and blah, blah, blah. And there are people that go further and they say, look, the fortune, the S&P 500 is going to be completely different, and the Magnificent Seven, that stack will get reshuffled, and a lot of, they'll be disrupted like all the legacy companies before them. I don't know. I think, certainly Kaiser or, name your legacy healthcare company, legacy materials company, legacy whatever company. I think they will be disrupted by innovators who are AI first. I don't know that the Magnificent Seven get reshuffled that much. They have in their DNA software, agility, adaptability, first-world principles thinking, and the distribution to be able to absorb this innovation and deliver it at scale. So I don't think that the Mag 7 or whatever change. Maybe the stack ranks change or something. Maybe there's an extra 1 or 2 or 3 that get added, an OpenAI or whatever, a Grammarly, a Figma. I think it's the rest. The rest are going to be, they're going to either adapt or die from some Silicon Valley based AI powered, disruptor. Yeah. So that, that YC segment we had quite a few weeks ago, Yaniv, we talked about that, the first item on their list is we were looking for disruptors, not people that help legal companies or law firms, people who disrupt them, not people who help logistics companies, people who disrupt them, not people who help healthcare companies, people who disrupt them. And so I think they're the ones to watch out for, and they're the ones that are going to be real powerhouses to follow in the future.
And that's completely congruent with what Vinod Khosla is saying, right? So the Magnificent Seven are 7 out of 500 in the Fortune 500. And it's like, it's everyone else, I think, who's going to see. Like, I just think there's going to be a lot of those companies that will go away. And that's what he's betting as well. So one more point that he made is he said, the biggest risk we might face that I worry about is China using both good AI, cyber AI, warfare AI, but also socially good AI like free doctors to everybody on the planet, and to embed their political philosophy. So this is an interesting one. It's a very American Western-centric take. Is he saying perhaps China will pick up the slack, take up the mantle that the US has given up, and help make the world a better place for everyone. And by doing that, people will like China more. And I'm like, well, yeah, but maybe that's not so bad. I don't know. Like, I think definitely in the context of like, great powers struggles, the possibility of AI to be a way of projecting soft power is enormous, right? Because you can give so much to so many people with this technology. But, if China does it instead of the US, either way, the world seems like it benefits.
It's an interesting one. The US has benefited from multiple dimensions of soft power for decades, from
Mhm.
Hollywood to the tech companies kind of expressing American values to harder power like military power, and also the power of the dollar as the default fiat currency. I don't know that we want to live through the transition from American leadership and dominance to something else, because the transition, put aside the outcome, the transition will be messy and
Yeah.
painful and fraught with danger. Whether or not you believe American leadership has been net good or net bad, any transition will be very, very dangerous and disruptive. And the idea that AI is a new form of power, which of course it is, and AI tools with their cultural values embedded as a new form of influence, which of course it is a very interesting idea. I will say that for the most part, I feel like the US and the US Western aligned powers are just shooting themselves in the foot a lot of the time. It's like, it's not that China's winning so much as that the US is stumbling and falling. And it's, through the corruption of, money and polarization of media and the celebrity culture and, all this sort of stuff. And, I've been hanging out in Dubai, and I went to this facility that was like a DMV. It was like a kind of a government run facility. Yaniv, on the big screens on the walls, they had the 4 or 5 KPIs for the office in real time displayed on all the big screens. You know where you get your next number, like next up is this person, next up is that person. It's a DMV, right? And it was like the customer happiness score and the time to see an agent score and the whatever score. And it's like, I mean, it's not so hard to set KPIs, define policy around those KPIs, and make everybody live up to those KPIs. But the US just spends forever arguing these silly wedge issues and just making it seem like these dichotomies exist that where they don't exist. And China's sort of a little bit in that area where it's like, we don't need to have a messy argument. We don't need this messy democracy thing. We're just going to go pour money in, deploy the tool, deploy the capital, deploy the strategy, have 100-year vision, and win. And it's no wonder that kids these days are sort of ambivalent about democracy. They're like, whatevs. If it works, it works. It's good. It's like they don't know why democracy matters, and they don't see it working very well for them, and that's a very dangerous place to be. And yes, this is a really interesting risk that I haven't heard before. Is like, it's not about China just using it to improve their productivity or using it to impose their will, but actually using it to seduce the world towards their hegemony, to their new world order. And that's a real possibility. It's a really interesting insight.
Again, I don't want to come out as like pro CCP. I think the Chinese Communist Party has a lot wrong with it, a lot to answer for. But I just think we should be clear-eyed about this. Whereas, like, when the US or Western countries give aid, it's because they're the good guys. But when China gives aid, it's a seduction. It's like there's this double standard that blinds us to the reality,
100%.
which is like, no, is it a seduction or is it them actually helping the world? And, the truth is soft power never has purity one way or another. But ultimately, it's a win-win. And if China is better at giving that win-win to the world, then it deserves to dominate, frankly. That's what's so tragic about the US giving up that position of leadership.
You're so right. There's so much embedded and inherent bias in the words we choose, from regime to government, from killed to murdered to died, from terrorist to, militia to army, hostage to prisoner, right? These words are all they're often used to obfuscate the truth of the equilibrium or the comparability between the two things, to cast one as good and one as inherently bad. So you're right.
Well, you judge by your actions, right?
No, yes, this is the problem. Most people, most of the time, are paying attention to words, not actions. And actually, most dilemmas and confusion would evaporate if you paid attention to the actions and not the words. And I heard this recently, and I'm gonna steal it. Words are often used to obfuscate the truth. Actions are often usable to reveal the truth. And I think this is true for countries, for governments, for people and for companies. And I think if we stopped looking at words and rhetoric, we would be better off.
All right. So to bring things back to Vinod Khosla one more time, Chris, because this is just to finish off. I think there's a really nice quote from him, and this is talking about venture capital. You mentioned what a great investor has been, and this is at the core of the Silicon Valley ethos. I think he articulated it beautifully. He says, most people reduce risk to increase the probability of success. I do the opposite. Start with, I want high consequences of success. I don't care about the probability of failure, right? So if you think about it from a statistical point of view, Chris, you've got expected value as like the probability of something multiplied by its magnitude, right? You've got a 5% chance of $1 million outcome. The expected value is 50,000. He's saying, I want high consequences. So not low risk, but a actually high risk of something. But if it does pay off, it pays off big. And I think that's just a beautiful articulation of what makes Silicon Valley and that whole ecosystem a special place.
You know what? Honestly, I have goosebumps. I'm not going to lie. There are so few people.
I always give you goosebumps, bro.
No, it's Vinod that gave me the goosebumps, not you.
You tell yourself that.
There are so few people and so few places who think like this. Truly, deeply, like in their DNA, think like this. They're so wrought with indecision and managing downside risk all the time. And it's like hesitating when you're trying to jump a gap, right? The hesitation is what's going to kill you. And I can't tell you all the founders I work with to help them with their fundraising and to help them with their story and help them with their execution and their strategy. And up and down the stack is just hesitation and fear and hedging and indecision, not just from them, but from their operators or their team or their investors or whatever, their board. And it's just this painful, painstaking process of building consensus and, explaining why the upside is so exciting. And meanwhile, there are just a few people, not even all of Silicon Valley, a few people in Silicon Valley who are just going to blow by everyone because there is no consensus to build. There is no risk to manage that they're obsessed with. There is just leap as fast and hard as you can. And if you fall, so fucking what? So what? Next. And that's like, I'm telling you guys, if you want the big outcomes, the big boy outcomes, that's where your brain has to be. And just encourage everyone listening to, if you dream of having that kind of success, that's the attitude you need. If you want to just have lifestyle businesses or middling success, you're happy to, buy a Lamborghini, then you can ignore me and you can ignore Vinod.